Hey YouTube, Kevin Cleary with a knife video for you. Today we're doing my most carried knives for July and August, really. Normally, you guys know I do these at the beginning of the month. It's just been really busy for the month of August, so I have not been able to get to this video, but I'm getting to it now, and so I want to share with you the knives that I've carried the most. A couple things I'll say by way of introduction. You guys know I often have been carrying a couple of knives, and I've been carrying some fixed blades to both review and to test out just how comfortable it is and how viable it is to suggest carrying a fixed blade as your EDC. So there'll be a few fixed blades here that kind of represent that effort. The Tops T-Bow I'm not going to show you because the video just came out a couple days ago, so you know I've been carrying that around for primarily review purposes. All right, so most of these I think you've seen before, some of them maybe not, but I'm going to start off with some fixed blades, and then, oh actually no I'm not, I'm going to start off with the EDC pouch that I've been using. This is a Skinth Solutions pouch. They're out of Alberta, Canada. They do a really great job, and I have carried this all the time and had no issues with it. I have in here a multi-tool, a flashlight, a lighter, some cards that I don't commonly use. So these are cards like your library card or, you know, a loyalty card at a different store, gas station, whatever. And I've also got a whistle and a flash drive, and that's about it. This I take with me everywhere all the time, and it's really handy. And a couple times it did save me because I had changed my clothes and didn't put a knife in my pocket. The knife was in my other pocket, and I was just in a rush. But thankfully, I needed a knife, and because of this pouch, I had the knife on my Leatherman Skeletool. Okay, so really cool. I'm going to do a full review on this, but this has made EDC very comfortable for me. It's really, you know, it's the summer now and it's hot, and getting a bunch of crap shoved in your pockets can be really annoying when it's hot weather and it's sticky. And so this has been a great option to kind of keep my pockets a little bit lighter. This clip is great. It can clip onto pants or a pocket or a belt, and that makes it really good. So that's one of the things that you'll see a review on coming up, but I've really liked that from Skinth Solutions. Now let's talk about some of the fixed blades. I have the Ka-Bar Becker Necker BK11, great little knife. I really like the blade shape and the edge geometry on this as an EDC blade. I think this is completely acceptable, and I've actually carried this a lot as my sort of primary blade, and carried with it some kind of a smaller folder like my 943 or 530 or, you know, Spyderco Native 5. So a number of different small blades go nicely with this. Okay, yeah, so good blade. It's one of the ones I've been carrying a lot. The next one you guys already know about. This is probably my most preferred fixed blade EDC. This is the SE3. I like the slightly larger size. I like the full handle. I really like, one of the things that I like about SE in general is they tend to have slightly thinner edge geometry, which means you've got knives that actually cut. And for an EDC blade, that's really important. The other thing, of course, is the sheath. Now, this is plastic, not Kydex. But it does the job really well, and I have it set up so it's slightly canted. Now I find if you carry this on a belt, it wants to flop unless the belt is like a full 2-inch belt to fill this up. But if you put it over the waistband of your pants, it's tight enough that it pinches pretty hard, and it stays about where you've put it. So what I'll often do is, even if I'm wearing a belt, I'll put this over like the belt and the pants, and then it stays a little better. Another similar blade to the SE is the DPX Hest. Okay, the edge geometry on this one is not as good. It's meant to be a little more heavy duty, and that does mean that you don't get as nice an edge geometry, okay, which is a bit of a drawback. But the smaller size is actually really nice. You don't give up a lot of capability, but you get a smaller sized blade. And of course, this sheath is Kydex, which is really nice. These clips are not quite as handy as these ones, but because they have to actually be clipped around, right? It's some kind of a secure, I can't remember the right name for it right now, but this folds over, you know, tuck this into your belt, clip this shut, and it is very secure. but it can flop around a little bit because there's a lot of space in here, okay? So those are the main, oh yes. So those are the main 3 fixed blades, and I told you I often carry a small fixed blade. This Silent Soldier has rarely left my waistband or my belt or my pocket or something. I really, really like this knife. It's super, super small, super comfortable to carry around. You can literally have it all the time, no matter where you're going, what you're doing. One, it's small so that if you pull it out and cut something, no one really notices or cares. 2, it's extremely lightweight, and this clip can clip to anything you can think of, and because of that, it's really easy to have with you. And a lot of times, even when I'm doing my 2-knife thing where I've got, you know, maybe a fixed blade or a large folder and a smaller knife, I will still add this and end up with 3 blades just because this is so compact, so light, so easy to carry. Okay, now let's get into the folders that I've been carrying. Some of these, I will say, I took with me when I went to help with a Christian camp, Camp Oma. Maybe some of you saw that video where I introduced the theme of the week at camp with the fire truck in the background. The blades I took with me were my Para 2, great knife. Just if you, this is one of those knives that I recommend a whole lot. You know, when someone says to me, hey, I just want a really good folding knife that I can sort of depend on, that can be my one folder, hard to go wrong with a Para 2. You've probably, if you watch all of these most carried videos, you'll see a Para 2 show up a lot because it's just a great versatile blade. Let's see. The one knife I don't have with me here is the Cold Steel Recon 1. I took that with me, did really, really well, and I would carry it at times where I thought, you know, I could get dirty, I could get gunk in it. It was something that was really versatile, and I carried it on a hike that we went on where we were in water for a good portion of the time. So the knife got totally submerged in water a number of times, and when I got back, I tried to find some WD-40, which is what I would normally do. I couldn't find any. So all I could do was open the knife up, dry it out as best I could, dry inside of it, and I did set it in the sun to kind of dry the moisture out of it. And then I did make sure I carried it so it was getting use. Okay, so even if there was any water in there, rust couldn't really form because of the constant use of the knife. Anyway, the knife did fine. I have since I got back, cleaned it up and given it a little TLC, but the action on the knife was fine, the functionality was fine, the lockup was good. So submerging the knife totally in water and not doing really anything about it other than drying it off afterward, I think that was a pretty good test of the versatility of that blade, and it did really well. I meant to bring it with me to tell you that story, but I don't have it. I'm going to tell you the story anyway. So that was the Recon 1, and so I was really impressed. Another blade I brought with me was the Division. I just like the Division because it's extremely well built. It's a great combination of function and form, and I said that in the review, but this is a gorgeous looking knife, and people who, you know, especially when you go somewhere and you're traveling, people know I have a knife channel and that I have a collection, and they'll say, hey, what are you carrying with you? You pull this out and show it to them, they're like, whoa, what a cool blade, right? So it really has that artistic, aesthetic appeal while still being extremely, extremely functional. And I'll say this while I've got this out, D2 steel, I just love D2 steel. I would almost buy a knife just because it had D2, and I actually have. Very, very good, and this is one of the knives that went with me as well. 2 others to show you that came with me to camp, and then the rest of the knives will be from outside of that. One of my favorite knives of all time is my Farium Forge Ferrex. As you know, this is a slightly more expensive knife, but totally, totally awesome. It's comfortable, it's super tough. The CPM M4 steel is ridiculous, okay? It's very, very hard, but even though it's at a really, really, really high hardness, it's not brittle, it's still tough and durable. It takes an edge and holds that edge like forever, okay? So there's nothing not to like about this knife other than, you know, some people, if you haven't had this in hand and you haven't used it, you may look at that flipper and go, what the heck, that is the stupidest looking flipper ever. Once you get the knife in hand and you use it and you feel ergonomically how that flipper functions, you get over it right away, okay? So there you go, Farium Forge Ferrex, really awesome knife, one of my all-time, this is one of my all-time favorite knives. Not just in my collection, but out there, okay? you know, I've looked at a lot of knives, and there are a lot of knives on my list, and a lot of knives I've considered. I would take this over a whole lot of the Midtechs that are on the market right now. It's just a phenomenal blade. Let's see, what also, oh yeah, one last knife that, oh yeah, no, I've got two actually. Two more knives that came with me to camp. One is the Titanium Military, amazing blade, and you know, this thing is, honestly, this is like my Sebenza, okay? You know, people talk about the Sebenza being their most perfect knife and their most beloved, and if they had to get rid of all their other knives, blah, 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 blah. You know, that's how I feel about the Titanium Military. It's a large knife, but it's got all of the usefulness that you could ever want. It's smooth. The blade shape is phenomenal. The handle is comfortable, and of course it's titanium, so it's got that high-end appeal. Just a great blade, and another very, very favorite knife. One that gets carried by me a whole lot, and maybe babied a little bit. Got another one for you that was with me at camp. This is the ZT-0630. I think I took 4 or 5 knives. So what have I told you so far? The Para, the Ferrum Forge, the Division, the Military, the Recon 1. Oh, so I had 6 knives altogether with me, and that were meant for, you know, sort of EDC. I was there for 8 days. By the way, this is not a camp where I'm like backpacking in or anything like that, so weight is not an issue. So this was one of the other knives, and this kind of ended up with me by accident. I had been using it, and halfway through the day, about the week leading up to camp, halfway through the day, I changed the knives I was carrying. So I took this out of my pocket and I put it in my backpack, thinking now I know it's going to go home. Well, I never took it out of my backpack, so I got to camp and it was there, and so I did carry it. Very, very good knife. This is, you know, ZT. You know, you guys have seen my overall impressions of ZT video, or some of you have. I like ZT in general. This knife, I've got to say, I think is one of the better blades that they have put out in recent history. Okay, it's practical, it's cool, it's comfortable, it's well executed. There's not a whole lot that I don't like about this knife. All right, so that's the ZT-0560. Now let's get to some knives that I've been carrying in general that I didn't take with me to camp. This one is the Viper Maga. Now this knife, I got it because, one, I wanted something from Viper Knives, and I looked at a number of different models. I really like the Maga, and this one is special to me because it was given to me for my birthday last year, and so I did go ahead and engrave my wife, my son's initials into it, just to be a reminder of where I got the knife and why it's special to me. Obviously, this is a knife that's not ever going to leave my collection. It is a very capable knife, okay? What I will say about pretty much all of these modified Tantos, where you've got the recurve and the Tanto with some belly, you end up using them more like a standard blade, okay? So a Tanto, you know, you often use that secondary tip for various utility tasks. These knives, the secondary tip is not in a place that makes it terribly useful. You end up essentially making a choice between, am I going to use this portion of the blade or this portion, and this only becomes a transition rather than an actual usable tip. I don't think, do I have a Tanto here? Yeah. So on the Cold Steel Recon 1, you can see how if I was opening a box, right, I'm going to be careful not to cut this, but if this was a box that I was opening, I could use that tip to cut something, right? And it works really, really well in a utility roll. But notice how if I hold this knife at the same angle, I'm now cutting with the belly, not with that secondary tip. Okay, so great knife, really, really cool. And this knife, I know, it's kind of a knife that has maybe it's too many features, you know, it's trying to be too much, and it's a knife that maybe gives into industry pressures a little bit. It's got like everything, okay? So it's carbon fiber handle scales, it's a ball bearing pivot system, and one of the things that I would say is something I kind of dislike about this knife. I don't hate it. I still like the knife. In fact, this is a very favorite knife. I carry it sort of as a hard use gentleman's folder, okay? But this has every possible opening feature, okay? It's got a flipper, it's got a it's got thumb grooves, it's got a wave feature, so it's like, I don't know, it seems like you got just about 3 too many opening mechanisms there. But anyway, I still love the knife. I still think it's absolutely gorgeous and extremely functional. You know, just you've seen, if you watch my review of the knife, you'll see what I think of it, but I do carry it a lot, largely for sentimental reasons. Now, I showed you Cold Steel Code 4. I think this is one of the most versatile folders that you can buy. And if someone just comes to me and says, hey Kevin, I'm just looking for a good knife, man, it's going to be, these two are 2 of my most recommended knives, along with the Recon one, which I don't have here. I mean, along with the American Lawman, which I don't have here. I really need to get a newer American Lawman so I can make some comments about that. But great knives. Both of these are knives that I think could really serve you well as your only folder that you're ever going to own, okay? And I think both of these are well made enough that you could literally buy it, spend your, you know, both of those are around 120 bucks, spend your 120 bucks and be done, okay? Never buy another knife, all right? So, got a couple more. This one, the SOG Aegis. What I like about this, it's just really, really lightweight, okay? You've got full capability of a large size EDC. It's not a hard use knife, okay? It's just an EDC knife, but I do love the blade shape. I love the assisted opening on this knife. But above all else, I really like the lightweight, okay? I carry this a lot if I'm, let's say I'm going jogging or I'm walking the dog and I've just thrown on a pair of workout pants. I carry it in those times where I want to have a capable knife, okay? I don't want to not carry a knife, or I don't want something that goes down to this size. I still want a full-size folder, but I don't want the weight that comes with, you know, the Division or something like that. So SOG Aegis, really, you guys know I sort of have this love-hate relationship with the Aegis. I love the design, I love the aesthetics, but I think SOG should completely do away with this piston lock and just don't make any more knives with the piston lock, because the thing is disaster. Finally, and I didn't purposely save this one for last or anything, this is the Cold Steel Ultimate Hunter. Great knife, very versatile, very tough. One of the things I like about this is I carry this a lot if I'm, you know, I want a full-size folder, I want the capability of a full-size folder, but I'm going to somewhere where there's lots of people around, okay? I went to a nearby city to do some touristy stuff. This was the knife I carried because I wanted a knife that I still had all the capability of something like this, okay? But this knife, because of the blade shape, it just looks very, very friendly. Okay, it just looks like a tool. And that's all I ever carry a knife for, is a tool. But some knives I could, you know, are going to put people off a little more than others. You know, if you take something like this out, it may bother some people. And I can tell you, this knife, I actually went through a security check in the city and to go into a particular building. And guess what? They said, hey, what's that in your pocket? I said, it's my folding knife. They asked me, why do you carry a knife? I said, it's just a handy tool. I find myself needing to cut things an awful lot, and so it's nice to have a knife to do that. But they didn't give me a hard time. They said, okay, if you could take it out of your pocket and just put it like totally in your pocket, then that would be cool. So I said, that's fine. That may not have been the case if I was carrying maybe this knife or the Division or even the military, just because of its sheer size, okay? And so this is the knife that I had on that particular day. There you go, guys. That's the knives that I've been carrying the most. It's not the only knives I've carried. You guys know I've done some reviews and I've had some conversation, so you know there are other knives that worked in from day to day, but I feel like these knives are a good representation of what I've been carrying and what I've been enjoying carrying. I hope you liked the video. I know it's a little longer, there are more knives, and that's just a factor, or I mean, that's just a function of the fact that it's been a lot longer since I made one of these videos. All right, have a great day, and we will talk to you soon.